So recently I just finished the first Little Nightmares game because I want to play all of the games on the channel leading up to the third Little Nightmares game coming up later this year. And one thing I couldn't get out of my head was the genius character design behind the game. Now, if you didn't already know this about me, I love character design, so much so that I'm studying it in university and I plan on being a character designer in the future for all different kinds of media. I have loved character design so much for a long time, so obviously I know a lot about it. So I want to use this knowledge as an excuse to gush about how much I love the character design of Little Nightmares. After looking at all of the designs of these monsters, it is my firm belief that these characters are a perfect reflection of the concept of corruption in the world around them. Each character has a different way to ignore, justify, or quite literally mask their unjust actions in the world of the Maw. You see, when making a character for a story, one of the first things you need to ask yourself and understand is what is the character's role in not only the story, but the setting they are a part of. Are they the protagonist or antagonist? Are they someone who's supposed to tell you about the setting, or someone who is made to challenge how the setting and the world works? Character designers will usually take that concept and make a design that can visualize the role of the story, whether it's obvious or subtle.
Oh, bless her, wherever she...
First off, we have the protagonist of the game. Six is the little girl that the player controls throughout Little Nightmares. You wake up on a large aquatic vessel known as the Maw and must survive in a world full of giant monsters that want to eat her. Now, one of the first things we notice with Six is her vibrant yellow raincoat. Yellow is one of the primary colors, the others being red and blue. And something I noticed in the game was how nothing matches the vibrancy of her yellow raincoat. Every color used in the other characters or backgrounds are muted and dirty, and even when you consider the colors they're using as a whole, yellow doesn't show up anywhere else really. We see hues of brown, green, white, and even muted hues of red and blue, the other primary colors. However, yellow isn't there that much, except Six. Whenever you are in any environment, you can see how we stick out like a sore thumb with how bright our coat is. Another thing I want to point out about her raincoat is the sharp edges they make. In character design, there's a concept called shape language, which is essentially the idea that certain characters' personality can be determined by the basic shapes of their body. Like for example, squares are seen as strong, stubborn, and tough like Wreck-It Ralph here. Triangles are seen as cunning, sleek, and smart, like this design of Batman, and finally circles are seen as warm, cuddly, and kind, like Winnie the Pooh. So with that knowledge, when we look at Six, we see a lot of sharp angles and triangular pieces, therefore showing off that she's smart, fast, and cunning. And this shows perfectly when it comes to the game, since we are always platforming, solving puzzles, and figuring out our next step into escaping the Maw, which brings up the question, what is her role in the overall theme of corruption? Now, from the way I see it, Six represents the innocent, the young people that have childlike wonder in their eyes, the ones who are blissfully ignorant when it comes to the real world and corruption. However, the more she stays in the Maw, the more we see her becoming corrupted. First killing a rat, then killing one of the gnomes, and then killing the lady to gain her power, and then finally going on a killing spree by sucking the soul out of all of the guests at the end of the game. I see Six as the corrupt becoming corrupt, due to violence and circumstance. From her childlike design mixed with her actions she takes in the game, I think that is a fair assumption to make. Now that we've gotten the main character out of the way, let's go over each of the monsters in order and go over their designs, starting with my favorite. So now we have the first monster we ever see in the game, the Janitor. Now I've already made a video on him specifically, not only his design, but also how he is the best horror game monster ever. So if you want, I'll put it in the eye icon up top so you can watch it after this video. So obviously the first thing we notice is that the Janitor is blind, he cannot see. And we also notice that his stature is extremely short, and his overall anatomy structure could be compared to a baby who was really good at monkey bars. Now, with all of these factors in his design, we get a sense that he is weak, and while he is scary and has a presence, It'll be pretty easy to get past him if we're careful. But I want to tell you that you're wrong. Now, one thing I didn't mention about him being blind is that you should never underestimate blind characters in media. It is a motif that a lot of blind characters have some amazing abilities despite their blindness. Daredevil, Toph Beifong, that one guy from Don't Breathe, etc. So obviously we should not underestimate his senses, and we learned this from playing the game. He has an amazing sense of hearing, and that hearing paired with one of the most dangerous weapons he has, his arm. Another principle of character design is exaggeration. It's exactly what you think. A character that has an aspect of them, whether it's body type, clothes, object, etc., that is stretched out of proportion. Think Johnny Bravo's torso, Popeye's arms, or just any cartoon character that's head is bigger than their entire body. Now, you don't need any kind of degree to notice that the janitor's exaggeration is his arms, and that is his greatest weapon. The janitor's reach is something that we constantly underestimate because we have this thing in our head like, this is a good distance, he can't catch me. But then we learn over and over again that he can reach us. And that's what I think is so cool about his design, is that he gives off this false sense of weakness, but in reality he has a skill set that we haven't really tackled in the gaming world, and we don't know how to handle it other than trial and error. Now, one more thing I wanted to mention about his eyesight is that I think that's what his role in the theme is. He is blind to the corruption of what he's doing by choice. He is quite literally turning a blind eye, haha, and just following orders for the higher-ups to deal with and not taking any action against it. He has a good skill set, but he chooses to stay low, head down, and follow the rules of the Maw. And I think that's one of the best ways to represent corruption in a game. Alright, now that we've gotten the janitor out of the way, let's move on.
Well over, but you never find another.
Next we have the Chef brothers. I think they're brothers. I mean, they put their toilets together, so there might be something more intimate there. Something I notice in media is that we don't see many evil chefs all that much. I mean, when I think of evil chefs, I can only think of the short guy from Ratatouille, or the dude from The Menu, or just Gordon Ramsay. Chefs are seen as kind and hospitable people who kindly give you food that you love. These guys don't do that. If I could sum up these guys in one word, it would be presence. And no, that's not a fat joke. Right off the bat, the fact that there's two of them literally doubles the threat level. We start off by dealing with just one, but later on we see both and we feel the weight of it, so there's that. But mostly I want to talk about their body type. So when I was talking about shape language earlier, I mentioned how circles and round curves are supposed to convey comfort, joy, and love. And then just now I mentioned how chef characters are usually kind and generous. These guys take both of those themes and flip it on its head. I think the character designers made this decision intentionally to break the wheel and give us something new. Rules are meant to be broken, right? And that's so interesting to me, how you can just twist one aspect of a character and it gives you a totally new result that we haven't used, and we end up loving it just as much. Anyways, fanboying over, I want to go back to their presence. Because of their shape, body type, and size, these guys are extremely noticeable and have this almost authoritative energy about them. This is their kitchen, and if one small thing is slightly off, they will notice it. It makes the act of getting caught by these guys stressful in a different way as opposed to the janitor. With him, you feel like you need to stand still or quietly move in a way that doesn't make any noise. With the chefs, they have this thump to them where it's almost like an earthquake and you physically freeze in their line of sight. They are easier to run away from, but the sheer presence they have in the kitchen is dominating and it's terrifying. Now, when it comes to the theme of corruption, their role in it is kind of sketchy. You see, there's a theory going around that the chefs have a false face, where the faces we see on them are just masks that are supposed to look like they are emotionless. We know this because we see them digging underneath their faces and scratching something under all that skin. And that's what I'm gonna go off of when it comes to the roles. I think the chefs are using masks to quite literally mask their feelings to the corruption happening in the Maw. This is different from the janitor's blindness because instead of blinding yourself in blissful ignorance, they are actively teaching themselves to numb their feelings and continue on doing all these horrendous things. They know what they are doing, but since they are making such a crucial material for the maw, they just need to suck it up and continue cooking, and that's the point of the masks. Now, speaking of the crucial material, let's talk about the people the chefs are making this material for.
Sweet man like me. Now when I die, baby.
Now we have the herd of the roster. Now, when I say herd, I mean these designs were made to be a large group of people that work as one unit. They have a simplistic body type that doesn't differentiate from each other all that much. They all sound the same in terms of their grunts and screams, and they move the same and all want the exact same thing. They have the same kind of presence that the chef have, but applied differently. Instead of a person preventing you from moving because of their stature, the guests have this presence that make you feel trapped. They are all around you throughout the chapter, and even though they have a fairly short reach, the cramped spaces you're in paired with their sheer numbers make you feel like you need to tread very carefully, because their presence and movements restrict yours. Speaking of which, I want to talk about how that body language fits with their role in corruption. The guest's role is the consumers. Now, obviously that feels like a no-brainer when said out loud, but I want to show you how well it's done in this game. Now, other than their sheer numbers and gluttonous body types showing that they are consuming everything in sight, what sticks out is the way they interact with you. Whenever Six is in the guest's line of sight, they essentially beeline over to grab her. Out of all the mountains of food they have right in front of them, they ignore it in order to get the real good stuff, the living body of a child. They always want the newest and best quality thing regardless of the stuff they already have in front of them. And later on, when we are running from a larger group of them, they are crawling over each other and shoving one another around in order to get to us. These guys are the perfect reflection of greed. They are the consumer, they are picky and selfish and overall the worst to work with, and they made Geyser cry, so I hate you, apologize to her immediately. Okay, personal biases aside, this group of characters make a well-implemented singular character in the environment. Now that we've covered the guests, let's talk about the ones who's hosting them.
In my straight leg breeches. Put on a box back coat.
Now we have the big bad of the game. The first thing we notice in her design is her sheer height. Compared to the other characters in the game, she probably doubles them height-wise. The reason this is important is because that mixed with her body language of always looming over something, it is a perfect showing of her influence on the maw. She is the one in charge and she wants everyone to know it. Something that also shows her status is her clothing. While everyone else is wearing beaten up and dirty clothing, she is wearing clean and formal attire. Clothing designed to be presentable and refined. It's the same with the setting of the chapter, taking place in her personal penthouse with paintings scattered across the walls and nice decorations all around. Now, with all this being said, I think her role in the theme is the one who reaps the benefits of corruption. Since she is the boss of this restaurant, obviously she's probably getting paid handsomely for all these guests, and since she has only like 3 people on payroll and they live in the place they work, she's probably getting a pretty penny from all this corruption. The clothes, the housing, the nice decorations, all these lavish and nice things come from the suffering and corruption. However, one thing sticks out. She's aware of it. This is where her mask comes in. She reaps the benefit of all of this, but it still takes its toll on her body and her mind. In the Little Nightmares DLC, we get a glimpse of what the lady looks like without her mask. She looks extremely similar to the baggy and rough faces of the guests and the chefs. She uses her mask and nice things to hide the fact that what she's doing is wrong, and she knows it's wrong. That's why she has so many broken mirrors around. She doesn't want to come to the terms of her actions. She just wants to hide away in her castle of comfy clothes and nice paintings. I think the mirror we use in her boss fight is a symbol of showing the light to someone who's far too deep into the corrupt way that they have been living. we are forcing her to look deep into herself and reflect on not only her actions, but also what she has become. The only problem is there's no room for change, simply because we, as the player, are the innocent, slowly taken over by the corruption of the world around us. Showing one more thing to the lady, that the people you walk over can always come and bite back. Try to kill me, so survival of the fittest.
Oh, bless her. When
So what did we learn? When all of it is said and done, I think these characters perfectly reflect the many forms corruption can take. They work extremely well in the dark and gloomy setting of the Maw. They also work really well with our character representing the innocent and slowly breaking them to become corrupt as well, whether intentionally or not. With the motifs of corruption in this game, it makes me extremely excited to play the other games in this franchise and continue to analyze the living hell out of it too. So, I implore you all to play the games yourself, analyze them too, talk about it in the comments below, and stick around for the other videos I have, not only on Little Nightmares, but character design in general, because man, have I got a lot to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Make sure to follow my socials in the description to stay updated on what and when I post, and also have a say in what I make next. I also post my art on there, so go give it a follow. Also, check the end card for more videos by me. Thank you for watching again, and in the meantime, make sure to relax today.